All right, good afternoon. It's about 4:05 p.m. and this is post market for June 24th, 2021. All right, so let's get right to it. Another beautiful day in the market. We just keep putting on gains, people. I mean, what can I tell you? This is what it's like to be a bull in this market. Gains just happen because this is the trend. And I know I said earlier in this week that we could see stocks pull back, and I wouldn't be surprised. But again, not to short the market and to maintain long positions, and that's worked out pretty beautifully thus far this week. And I think that the main driver today was this infrastructure package that I'm going to probably go off on, just talking about what budget deficits really mean, what are they, and just how to interpret this whole situation. So gold and silver did end slightly lower, but nothing much. Gold's still at 1775, and silver around 26. No big deal. Oil did put on a slight gain after being negative almost 1% earlier. That was a big boost to this market, and the Dow outperformed, up 1%, and banking stocks in particular. S&P up 0.6, Nasdaq up 0.7. So definitely concentrated in the larger cap stocks here, but I mean, this is big cap stocks are the place to be generally. You don't. I mean, they're just the big dogs, and the big dog eats. That's my general philosophy on it. They get more help from the Federal Reserve. They get more help from central banks. They are the corporations that are designed to be bringing us into the future, not in a good way. I don't support them. I don't support this whole structure, and I'm going to get to why the infrastructure bill is a big part of this whole structure. But this is the reality. So, what are we going to do about it? Now, there's you can change your timelines as well, but that's even deeper stuff. And I don't even know the extent of that. I haven't done enough work to know how to do that very well. But I know it's something that you can do if you put the work in and you look at the right resources. But anyways, wasn't a whole lot of economic data to cover with you. So let's just get straight to the infrastructure bill. So there is apparently some sort of infrastructure deal that is going on here and is going to be put into action, around $600 billion. And that's all well and beautiful. Where is the money coming from? That's the first thing we always have to think about. Well, last year we had a budget deficit that was pretty much twice the government revenues. So, we're getting the cash from the Federal Reserve. We're getting the cash from these banks who are all the more than happy to give it to us, because this is the main point. When you think about the world as it is right now, do you think things come out of thin air? No, nothing comes out of thin air in terms of reality and material goods, okay? It all must be reallocated. Now, you can certainly have innovation, and that's a huge part of increasing productivity and creating new ways of getting products and services out to people. But in terms of right now, what we have, you can't just print money and expect things to happen out of nowhere. The reason people look to printing money as a attractive thing to do is because they've seen how money has been allocated in the past through other mechanisms that they probably don't understand, because I barely understand them fully. But I will say that with my background in economics and studying economics for myself, not the indoctrinated economics that is present in 99.9% of schools these days, I understand the frustration that people have with how resources have been allocated and how they have accrued into the hands of certain people over time. But why are those resources being allocated that way? Is it capitalism, or is it corporatism? Is it a new system? Is it a new paradigm that's being pushed upon us for the past 100 years or so? In my opinion, it's the latter. Okay, so again, nothing can be created out of things can be created out of thin air, but money printing is not the solution, or that is not a mechanism for creating products, creating services, creating prosperity out of thin air. Now, we will get into in a minute here the process of reallocating resources and how that is done efficiently in an economy, but right now we need to talk about this infrastructure bill. So I put down a couple notes here on budget deficits. So It's not really borrowing from the future, as we only have what we have today, right in this moment. Okay? It's simply reallocating resources into the control of different parties. Okay? So we have a scenario where wealth is in certain hands. Wealth, not just paper money. And we want that wealth to be in different hands or to be allocated differently. And so the mechanism of choice right now for the people in power, because it helps them, is to use the government to pass packages, because I've said this before, the Federal Reserve gains power from printing money. Okay, people think sometimes that they lose power, or it's like, oh, they don't want to do that, they'll go bankrupt. No, they gain power from printing money, and the debt is on our backs. Okay, and here's the key point. So we have this infrastructure bill, and people get jobs from that, and that is the main incentive, or the main reason that people want to do it. Okay, we want to upgrade the infrastructure. We'll get more productivity. People will get jobs, and the economy will be better. Okay, but when the only entity funding the operation is the government in concert with the Treasury and Federal Reserve, that means that the investors of the project, while they are going to hire jobs, they are going to see the benefit of it because they end up controlling the assets in the aftermath of that. You put in the investment and you get the return. Now, what is the foundation of the prosperity of America for a long time now? What did America build up that was so unique about it that allowed it to create freedom on an unprecedented level? It was the middle class of America. It was the ability of a person to have their own investments, to create their own lifestyle and their own prosperity from nothing. Whereas previously, it was a feudal system where only a small subset of people actually controlled productive resources, and they simply passed down the crumbs to the people below. So this whole system is a process of passing the crumbs back down to people below, okay? And this infrastructure is going to be another foundation of doing that. Now, if we didn't have the Federal Reserve and other people systemically destroying the middle class of America through the inflation tax, through the further introduction of government as a primary force in the economy, we would see these kind of projects, and don't even get me started on the incentives that are created, right? The tax system, the inefficiency of regulation, all of these things are designed such that the larger person can deal with the problems, but the smaller person can't deal with the problems. The COVID crisis is another example of that. All these corporations have all the money to spend on whatever they want, to update their systems and to deal with the COVID or whatever. And they're also getting cash injections from the Federal Reserve directly instead of going through this PPP process. So all of them are fit to deal with that, while the small businesses are scrounging just to get these supplies, and they don't have any business because the economy was purposely shut down. You see, think about this, and I think I posted this on Twitter a long time ago. Stores like Walmart didn't close. The essentials, right? It was all essential and non-essential. Well, what about the mom and pop shops that sold similar goods to Walmart? All of them were forced to close down. You would see videos of businesses being closed down forcibly. People not being able to do what they want. And I believe all these lockdowns were purposeful and created to destroy this middle class. And so let me get back on topic. If we still had a middle class, if we had more power over the economy in our autonomy, right, rather than them being the commanders, you would see not only efficient allocation of resources, which I can't get into the theory, on that, it would take hours, but you would see the funders of this infrastructure bill or whatever, the rebuilding of America, they would be in part middle class people who would get a real return on their money for what they are investing. Okay, but rather we have the total control of the economy by the central bankers who get the return on that investment and the control that comes with it. See, when you have something like the inflation tax, it systemically takes away interest from people who have it in savings accounts and forces people into certain assets. But you see, people don't even go to those assets. They keep it in savings account. They don't understand the system. So there is trillions of dollars of realized wealth lost through not only the concept of inflation increasing the price of goods which you then spend from your savings account, but also the interest that you would earn on your savings account, which you could then buy cheaper goods with. Okay, so it's this whole circus that is funneling money and funneling control to the banking system. Okay, and so it just slowly dilutes and slowly destroys the middle class, and it is one of the saddest things you can see. And this is why you have, again, this being part of the process, a stock market that is near record highs. I don't know, did we yeah, S&P and NASDAQ closed at records today, but yet we're seeing hundreds of thousands of people, over 400,000, apply for first-time unemployment, and we're still seeing small businesses suffer. Although I will say it is really nice to see more people opening up and being able to go into businesses and interact with people again. There are definitely some positives coming up right here, and I'm very optimistic about the future. I think that people are starting to realize how distorted this whole system is, and some of the things they're doing are very, very point blank right now. So I'm very optimistic about the future here, and I really can't wait to see what it has in store for us. So I think I've covered enough in this video. I mean, the stock market's going higher. Cryptos are performing really nice. Ripple up 10%. Bitcoin around 35,000 right now. Ethereum back over 2,000. So good moves in cryptos. The dollar did put on us. It was flat today, and the 10-year was slightly higher. So a really good setup for this market, and I think we'll see if this infrastructure, now if they come out and walk back the infrastructure because they said there as a deal, that would be a negative for the market, and I would expect to see some pressure on stocks if that happens. But this is definitely a headwind. We saw in 2018 with the tax bill, that was a headwind for a long time in this market. So stocks going much higher, and we'll see what happens from here, along with crude oil, and I believe gold and silver will have their day here, even if the market continues higher, even though they're risk assets. The dollar will be heading lower here, especially in the face of infrastructure, understanding that the spending is coming from the Federal Reserve. So that's that. I'll leave you off with that. I will see you tomorrow morning. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Love you a lot.